Talofa lava, everybody. It's Leah here from Talanoa Sa'o. Welcome to tonight. I'm going to bring on our co-host, Elliot Ikale, and then we have a guest speaker coming in. Yes,
Awesome, awesome,
Talofa.
awesome, awesome. Talofa, whakalawalai autu. Welcome to everyone on our show. Great to see you all here, at least in the comment section. Really, really good. I felt like I
Thank
was
you.
I was going to be a bit sentimental. So just so if you know, I used to work for Best Pacific Institute of Education. I love it. So I thought I'd just wear that tonight just to be, ripping. Yeah, a little bit like that. But awesome. But good to see you, Liao. Can't wait for tonight.
Yes, I can't wait for tonight. Jenny said there was no notification given from Daily Examiner,
Oh
but maybe
yes.
because we were very busy today. But you guys are here, so welcome.
Awesome. But and as always, if you would like people to see it, hey, share. Sharing is actually the way. Yes, as some of you have sent us messages, we have noticed that there was about 3.5, 4 weeks ago, the traffic went like this and then it just dropped. Yes, we do believe that there was an algorithm change, so we do know that that's gone on. But one of the wonderful things is, in some of the other platforms that we've been on, things are actually going up, so that's really, really good. So if you want us to cruise in, hey, share, get everyone to come on in. But sweet as.
Well, do you think we should start with prayer and then we will go on with our night? I know everyone's like, wow, we're here early. That's
Here early, on
all
time,
Elliot's
whatever.
fault.
Hey, that's how I roll, Alright, so you'd like me to start?
Yes, please. That'd be great.
Oh, great. Okay, dear Lord, thank you so much for tonight. Thank you for the gift of breath in our bodies. Thank you so much for family, for friends, for those who are family even without the blood relation. Lord, we pray that you help us to see further and see deeper. We pray that you just bless everyone who's listening and watching us. And we just pray for a great night tonight and good chatter and good discussion. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Elliot. Wow, we have had things going on in the last week or so that
Big
I
ones.
think we have someone very relevant to our discussion tonight. And how did everyone feel about the elections? How did
Oh,
you, were you
yeah.
surprised? Were you shocked? Were you, whatever, kind
Yeah,
of
for
feel to
myself,
it?
I was pretty, and a little bit disappointed because Craig Law didn't get in, but we knew that it was always going to be a tough one. I think though probably one of the positives that people are finally waking up a bit as to the progressive push, and I think it got to a point where they were just unable to, I suppose, filter it away, or that the media itself were unable to meliorate a lot of the people as they were usually able to. So I think that came in, but it was a massive rejection of progressivism and leftist
Mm,
ideology, and I think it's wonderful that we've got on the particular special guest that we've got on tonight. So
yeah.
really looking forward, and I'm really looking forward to see some of that insight coming from her.
Yeah, what I was a little bit disappointed about was there was someone who had stepped down from the race for mayor, and her name was still on there, and people voted for her.
Right?
So she
Yes,
had like
yes.
9,000 views, which was, you know, if you really think about it, you need to be onto it, more onto it than what they were. They were very slack in the way they did things. Yeah, a bit
Yep.
disappointing, but we have someone who is already causing a few waves within media, which I think is absolutely amazing. That it has really gotten up their nose that this mayor would want to work from 9 until, do a proper day and have a weekend off. All of these things that I'm kind of giggling about, but I would like to bring on our guest, if that's all right, Elliot, because
Yep.
very relevant to today. I'm going to introduce Jaspreet to our welcome, Jaspreet.
Thanks.
Hee hey, hey!
Hi, guys.
Congratulations.
So
Thank you. Thank you
congratulations
so much.
is in order. You are on the board. Is that correct? Your
I
local
am on
board?
the Southland District Council, not the board,
Southland District
Oh,
Council.
District
Awesome.
Council.
the actual council.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh, so could you tell us a little bit about your journey into where you are now with the council?
I honestly, it has been so organic had a year ago or even 3 months ago, had you told me I would be taking part in this, taking part in the elections myself as a candidate, let alone winning a seat, I would have said you need another think. But here we are. But talking about myself, just myself, it has come through over the last couple of years engaging with my council, going to submissions, going doing personal deputations, especially when Three Waters came. That's certainly for me out here. There was absolutely no discussion, and there was not just me. There was a whole lot of concerned people, and they would be from all the entire gamut, left, right, center, right, whatever you may call them. And slowly, slowly, somewhere, and as you do know, I have been doing this talks on VFF for nearly 15 months now. I think it's nearly up to 30 and counting. And
Wow.
somehow it came to a stage when we were asking people to stand in council. It was almost a bit hypocritical. I was telling people to stand, and I was not going to do it myself. There's only so far. There's only so far you can keep saying that. Yeah, we are better off outside or are more effective outside. For me, there were people who were asking me that, just read, where are your flyers, or are you standing, or what are you doing? And I was like, yeah, maybe it's time to do that. And I think I made the decision late July, about 2 weeks before the nominations closed. I made the decision, and husband and 2 kids in tow, we went around, put a few signs, at 10 to be exact, and did a
10
few
signs.
flyers. 10 signs, that's it. And
Wow.
we have, 4,000 kilometers of roads in Southland, and that was about it. But
Jeez.
it's been quite a ride. Very interesting.
So, just in terms of the campaign itself, did you ever get discussions with anyone? Did you talk with anyone? You've got on there. Why? How? Why? What was people sort of saying? And how did you get on there? Because, of course, as you know, the mainstream media just went hell for leather. They
Mm.
absolutely smeared. They engaged in misinformation. They've really just tunneled hard after anyone who felt that New Zealanders' rights were being impinged upon. How did that go?
They are the media, I think, have done themselves a disservice and have done many of us who have been just standing in our truth a favor. I have not done any advertising through all of these, social media or anything. But who would otherwise know a farming wife and mom in the backwaters of rural Southland? And the way they have gone about this is absolutely ridiculous. I had somebody who mailed VFF, and VFF sent that email to me. Somebody who said that they have replied to the Southland Times reporter who wrote a hit piece on me. And this piece, Elliot, was timed to hit the mailboxes on the same day that the voting papers hit.
No
Wow.
way.
They
Wow.
asked me for an interview in mid to late August. I know, because they asked me for a deadline, and I said that day everything that could go wrong on the farm went wrong. We had 30 cows nearly reached the highway. And I was like, I can't meet your deadline. There's utter panic stations here. And so
Mm.
give me a list of 10 questions. And all of them had to do with stuff like mandates, accessing council facilities, so on and so forth. The very last question, the 10th one was, or was it the 8th, was, are you happy about being associated with BFF? And I began the answer saying, no qualms. And I went on to explain why I am happy to be associated. Well, the reporter wrote an entire opinion piece on me and used a sum
Based
total
on
of two
that.
words, no qualms. Everything else was completely their opinion. They never asked me. I'm called the United Nations conspiracy theorist. No one has ever bothered to ask me, why do I say what I say? And
Yeah. Yeah.
do they think Kiwis are that stupid, that silly? You know, there comes a time when even your most, somebody who emailed me said that, I'm completely opposed to your stand against the mandates. But the way media is smearing you, I am, where you talk about councils and Three Waters, I'm completely in your, your favor. And that was really
Yep.
heartening. Yeah, we need
Yep.
to give people
Absolutely.
more credit than the media gives them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think that's a good example of how that report that came out a few months ago, sort of showing very clearly that the people have now disassociated themselves from media information, and I think it was just absolutely stunning how they ended up actually supporting those who stood up for New Zealanders' rights. I think that was actually really, really well done. Just, Preet, you are not the only identified freedom fighter, so to speak, who has won. Are you able to tell us anything about the other person who won in?
Oh, you mean Jill Booth? So Jill and I
Yes.
have been doing these VFF webinars together, and Jill has made it to the Teviot Valley Community Board, and which is the only position she stood for. I did stand for both my community board and council, and I made it to the council, not the board. And yeah, so Jill out there has, again, just like me, unapologetically been talking about what she, you know, feels the core issues or the problems we are facing today stem from. And it seems people listen. 2 years ago, they wouldn't be amiable to listening. But I think over the last 2 years, somewhere, people are now at least have a more open mind towards, where some of the major issues we are facing today come from.
Well said, well said. Sorry, Liao, did you have something?
Oh no, I was just thinking, just Preet, that there's been so many lies that have there's been nothing founded from this government that the people have started to go, we've had enough of this and we need change. So just the small changes and to have people who are willing to stand up against the narrative like yourself and others throughout New Zealand has been incredible to see. It's been heartening for all of us as well. I was just talking to you in the background about Wayne Brown, our mayor in Auckland, who has already gotten maybe 2 or 3 hit pieces on him
Mm.
already because they've been very unhappy about the result. And so you can see through mainstream media's eyes that they want him gone. So, first of all, as I've seen it, they've used his age, they've used his how many hours he's worked. Did we know anything about that with
Ethnicity.
Phil Goff? Did we know that about him? Was there any hit pieces done on him?
No hit pieces done on Phil Goff. No mention of the fact that he tried to bring the age of sexual consent from 16 years to 12 years.
Well,
No
Wow.
mention about him spitting on Vietnam veterans when they came back. No mention of him raising the flag of the literal enemy during a time of war against the people of New Zealand. So no, nothing of that
I
whatsoever.
think every time they try this, they are like, one is used to being attacked, what with being associated with BFF and other things. But each time now they are attacking a candidate who has been elected, be it Wayne Brown or be it me out here. They are ridiculing the people who voted for us, aren't they? Because it's the people in my ward. Is that who the media is attacking now for their choice? I don't
Yeah,
know. I
yeah.
look through it through a different lens because
Yeah.
there's this. I think I got about just over 35% of the vote here in my electorate. Are those the people you're thinking are silly and who can't see through
Mm.
the fiction?
Yeah,
That's
because
pretty
now
galling.
they're actually, that's right, because now they're actually talking about how many people voted. So they were saying in regards to Wayne Brown as well, which I read the other day was so only 35% of people are you standing for the behalf of the 35%. What about the rest? So this is a kind of yeah, kind of hit piece they're putting on him that, well, only 35% of people voted. But that's our norm. People have given up on our leaders. They've given up on every time they vote, they do something wrong because, they seem nice to start with. And then things go, nothing is done. Our poverty, our ram raids, just continually
And it's the
saying
same
something and
thing
not
we've heard
fulfilling it.
here. I mean, we've had a 48% return rate out here, and the people you talk, the ones who are voting or not voting, they're just like, what's the point? It doesn't make a difference. They feel completely, powerless, disenfranchised, no matter what. Even if they go along and do that, they feel like there's no point to it. And in my council, Southland District Council, in their own last year's annual report, they have a metric wherein they try to get a handle on what amount of percentage of population believes that the Southland Council's decision making reflects the district's aspirations. The council had set themselves a target of 85%. Only 37% people agreed. That speaks volumes. You
It
can do
does.
whatever else you want. That is such a damning characteristic. And this is local government. This is, I live within this community. If I don't do the right, I would feel to, at least I personally, the sort of person I'd feel really uncomfortable living within this area,
Mm.
not doing right by those who voted for me, or, for those whom I'm supposed to be doing the right.
Just Breed, of course, across the country, and I know that your focus really is on Southland. Would you please give us your insight in terms of the election overall? That we did have basically that a lot of the centre right or right wing mayors sort of coming in, and a lot of the local board still sort of shimmied a little bit, and also the fact that we had some of the lowest turnouts in certain areas. What is your thoughts on that, and what do you think's gone on?
I definitely see, as you said, a change from the left, other than Wellington. Most of the
Surprise?
country, yes, surprise, not most of the country, there has been it. Yeah, some part of it is, of course, anti-incumbency. You've had these last 2 years. You've
Mm.
had people, Three Waters has come in, and so on. But otherwise, like down south here, the Dunedin, Aaron Hawkins was the mayor, and he is being dispatched. The similar trends we are seeing across the country, and the voters have had enough. There's definitely a mood for
Mm.
change. And it is not just, we are seeing businessmen being elected. These, at least in the mayors, if you talk about Auckland, Wayne Brown's had a substantial history. He's not just, a dyed in the wool politician going from one to another. He's had certain other business experience also. The same here with the gentleman who's been elected in Dunedin. And for me, it is, I mean, I know Jacinda Ardern said that, oh, it doesn't reflect what it is at a national level or so on. But for me, no, it's the exact opposite. It shows that people are not happy. It shows that people are
Ah,
not happy and they are willing to make the change. The voter turnout numbers, I think Wellington, was it Lower Hutt that they were talking about LGNZ that a couple of days, or was it 24 hours before, it had at 14% or someplace, 14 or 18%? Wow.
I think, yeah, 14, 15%. I believe that was in one of the South Auckland areas. I think that might have been Mangere, I think, off the top of my head.
Okay.
But yeah, it definitely low in that Lower Hutt area. Yeah, I think that 15% might have been around South Auckland. I'm not 100% sure, but if one of our people, one of our peeps audience having a look, if you guys can let us know.
And the fact that two of the major, policies in the pipeline were held back before these elections have also had an effect. Had the report for the future of the local government, had that, I know we got a preview with of what's in the works on that one with the Palmerston North LGNZ Excellence Awards in July, but it wasn't released in full. The same thing going for the Rejigged Resource Management Act. Now, they have not yet spoken more about it. I think had these come before the election, there would have been a far greater turnout. Definitely,
Yes.
people would have been
Yep.
a lot more engaged. I mean,
Yep.
have you had a look at the future of the local government report and
Haven't
what's?
we know
yeah,
the report? I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I've just
there.
seen the
Yeah.
briefing notes of the LGNZ conference in July, where they spoke about LGNZ spoke about the fact that extending the term of the government, the fact that voting age needs to be lowered to 16. Young
Oh,
people are being
geez.
disenfranchised. The fact that the treaty needs to be more explicitly being put into policies, and the Aomari worldview lens needs to be, used for every single decision. So many of these things are going to now come into fore as we go on down this term, and I think it's certainly going to be interesting. Yeah,
Yep. Just
local
breach
government is
the
not
okay.
boring anymore.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So tell us, what are you're in there now? What are your sort of plans or sort of policies that you're angling towards? And we've got a couple of questions also in the comments that they want to ask you. So would you be able to let us know that one, and then we'll ask some of the questions that some peeps have asked.
Well, the two things I spoke about during my election, the candidate evenings and all, I was talking about keeping the local in local government and more transparent public engagement. And that is something I'm going to focus on. For let alone, having a normal, some sort of a meeting schedule from our councillors, even when Three Waters came through. There was no public dialogue initiated. There were people, including me, who got the council to come out here to where I live, to Tapri, and tell us a bit more about what was in the works. But they were told, "Oh, we've just the first tranche of funding that we've got. There are no strings attached." And there is absolutely no communication. It's like you elect councillors, and then for next 3 years, you don't hear of them. You don't hear from them. You do hear of them, but you don't hear from them.
That's right.
And that is something that is going to be my focus. Still going to see, we still haven't had a formal induction or anything yet. So I wouldn't like to, for me as a first termer, it'll be a case of watch and listen and see how things go. But transparency and making myself available and telling people what's in the works. As I said, these two big policies that are coming, they're going to have repercussions for places like this. We are
Yep.
out on the coast, we have managed retreat and other things coming in. So keeping people informed every step of the way, no surprises. That's going to be my focus.
Beautiful. Love it, love it. So we've been asked a question there from one of our YouTube people. This is ABCZX1. Thoughts on Māori wards and co-governance. Where is Southland on this? Where are you on this?
As personally, I am against co-governance. Absolutely. And I know my council, Southland District Council, we had a statement from Mayor Chong at the time of Three Waters. I believe this was 3-4 months back on a newspaper, this thing saying that not happy with Three Waters as it is, but with co-governance we are okay. Most definitely not. There is no democracy in this. The moment you start saying the entire body that they are creating for South Highland, it is going to have a handful of seats, and there's 22 odd councils to be who need voices on that one. To say that 50% seats are going to go to a very small niche and the rest of the population is not even ensured of one voice, nah, most definitely not going along.
Awesome. Well said, well said. Now, this is actually a very big question, and I'm going to ask you to explain it for our people who don't know it, as well as maybe give your thoughts on it as well. So this is again from ABCZX1. It's got some great questions coming from there. Thoughts on the new farm emissions developments this week.
We were going to talk
so
on
would
that,
love,
weren't we?
yes. So would love for you to maybe explain that for our people who don't quite understand it, and then what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts on it are actually, I can't actually say what I feel like saying. So let's get a bit PC here. This is absolutely systematically wrecked carnage on agriculture for virtue signaling. There is actually no benefit. In fact, if you look at the Ministry of Primary Industries document, where they talk about that it might actually lead to more emissions in the long run, the minister was unable to tell you that after putting this tax on, how much would the climate benefit? And, I'm a numbers person. So as a country, New Zealand accounts for 0.17% of the world's gross emissions, not net, gross emissions. Farming accounts for 40% of it. And why is that? Because as a small country, 5 million, we produce enough to feed in the tens of millions. The figures varies from something between 35 to 45 million. So farming accounts for 40% of that 0.17. That is 0.07%. So you're telling me a tax is going to reduce our emissions. So who are we doing the heavy lifting for now? India and China, who are full on gung-ho on power plants, coal and whatnot. We are the most efficient farmers in the world, the lowest carbon, pastoral agriculture, some of the highest welfare standards in the world, some of the most innovative farmers in the world. What are we being penalized for? And it is so galling. The minister can't tell you, once they penalize us with the tax, what is actually going to be the net benefit to the world. The same document goes on to state that once we are hammered by these taxes, the production is going to go to high emissions countries, maybe somewhere in South America or somewhere. So what is going to happen? Nothing. We are going to be self-destructing ourselves for the sake of what? And if you go through the Ministry of Primary Industries document, and I'll try to open it on my phone as we speak, there's one section on it, section 4.4, where they talk about the fact that it's going to wreak havoc on rural communities. Where is this?
Wow.
It's it's going to wreak havoc on rural communities. Going to be lesser number of schools, lesser number of jobs. But they say, oh, you pick a farmer from, say, Central North Island, go put them in tourism somewhere, and they'll do just fine. These are the sort of trade-offs they're telling us to do. This makes absolutely no sense, and we are the laughing stock of the world.
We are.
So
This,
just please, just for those of our people who, like me, a bit of a city slicker, and some of our people might not have fully gotten involved in it, can you give us a brief overview as to what's in this bill and why is it so contentious?
it tells you that your emissions, you will have to pay a tax on them, right? Whatever each time your animal burps, farts, whatever, you are going to have to pay an emissions a tax on them. And
So, so as an animal, as if you've got cows and the cows fart and they give off whatever biological gas that they do, the government wants to tax that.
yeah, there is a pricing mechanism, and they are saying that farmers, the farm gate, asked for it. I was looking at the consultation document as well as the initial statement that came out from the government. It said that we have listened to farmers and calls from farm gate for farmers who are doing the right thing to be rewarded. It is absolutely
I
stunning what we've come to. And right now, we are the first country in the world to set up a platform for trading carbon. Right now, carbon is at, I believe, something like $69, $70 per ton. They also say that to transition to a low emissions economy, this price of carbon needs to go to $250 a ton. What will happen to the tax? What will happen to the tax? There's figures from this website called emissions.co.nz, which is, sort of a think tank set up by a few New Zealand scientists and somewhat like the NZDOSOS doctors who've been trying to say, this is the science and it doesn't add up. And they said, for larger farms, if the price goes up to $250, $300 a ton, as they want, that could amount to nearly $300,000 a year in tax if it goes to
So I
that
mean,
amount.
so
And
I mean,
for
I
nothing,
can't believe it.
no.
there will be nothing achieved. We have a negligible. I mean, I'm not even going to go into methane and the fact that IPCC model is wrong, and it's just short-lived gas. Just on the basic premise that we are 0.07% of the emissions of the world gross. I thought that is something laudable. We should actually be getting some sort of credit,
Yeah.
a rates rebate, a tax rebate or something instead of being penalized.
So, just Preet, I just wanted to ask, like, why would they stop at cows? Do you know what I'm saying? It's not going to just be farmers.
I
At
mean,
what point they're
ruminants.
going to
So
start
it's going
starting
to
on
be all.
humans? Yeah.
It's going to. it's
Well, I
going
mean,
to
why
be
stop
all
there?
ruminants for now. Yeah.
It's so ridiculous that anything insane that comes from taxing us is. This is where we need to stand, right? To push
And
back
the
on this
platforms have been
ridiculous.
set up, Liao. We have set
Yeah.
up carbon trading. We already in 2018, this government set up the, special forestry test to allow overseas investors to come in and convert pastoral agriculture, farmland to forestry and no longer need to prove an economic benefit to New Zealand. From the land of the, long white cloud, we become the land of the long dark pine. And we're in New Zealand, we're not in Finland. This is not a native tree. This is against the Paris Accord. It is attacking our ability to produce food at a
Yeah.
time when there's food shortages, there's skyrocketing food inflation, and it's been done very carefully. You have children being taught in schools about the climate
Yeah.
crisis. It always goes down to the kids. It's with all those marches. It is with the World Earth Day and the rural urban divide, newspapers, magazines, everyone talking about, oh, XYZ or effluent here or this. And that's not to say there are no bad operators, there are. But the divide was very deliberately created.
Mm.
And
So so
chickens are coming home to roost now.
So we know that it's absolutely disgusting. We know that it's a combination of government, academics, wokes, and media. We know that. That's a bit of an axis that's going on. They do not like farmers. They treat our people like junk. It's been shown already. Can I ask? Now, this is something which has been coming up. Groundswell were a very big part of convoy of swamping cities. I remember the Auckland one where they had so many vehicles, trucks, and utes all going in there. Can you tell me what's happened with Groundswell in terms of what's been spoken of? Where have they gone? Because it seems to me that they've gone quite quiet on this.
Now, like I can't speak on behalf of Groundswell. I can speak what I view myself. And Groundswell have been working on this for the last couple of years, I think, on the paperwork behind this and their programs, trying to liaise with submissions to the ministry and all of those. But you have this government that is not listening to anything. That will
Yeah.
not even, that can't tell you a figure that when we tax you, how much are we going to save climate by? How much degrees will we reduce the warming by? But they have been going on. And I think somewhere over the last year, when this whole mandates came in and everything, the the public sentiment somewhere was lost. There is no two ways about it, the whole support, and suddenly people felt left out and all of this. But I am now hearing of, because I am being targeted by Facebook ads now, I think 20th October is the Groundswell next protest. Have
Yes,
you
yes, I
have you
believe
Yes.
so. Actually, I think I
Yes.
have seen that.
And
Yes.
and I'm hoping they get a lot of support, because this is no longer just farmers. This is no longer just about farmers. Everything, if you've seen your grocery bill and what we are paying, this is going to affect every single one of us. And I think the time to come together is now. There's going to be divisions. There's going to be people who don't see eye to eye on certain things, but I'm one to build bridges wherever we can, whenever we can. This is not the time to quibble over issues, but I certainly think somewhere people also need an education sort of campaign along with this, with what's
Yeah.
happening. So many people have no idea, how great we are already doing. We have all of our industry levy paying bodies, which are funded by our levies, dairy and Z, beef and lamb and all, bending over backwards to provide a solution to a non-existent problem. Like, it's like the government said, we're going to do this. What do you want to do? The answer should have been, no, we don't have this problem, rather than trying to comply with it. And I think Groundswell is trying to pick up the cudgels in that direction, because the levy paying bodies have certainly dropped the ball on this one. Yeah, so full power to them. I'm hoping. Yeah, 20th October midday, someone's just commented.
Yep. Yep. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. That sounds really good. So there's a lot of people I've noticed in the comments very angry. Good. What can we do when what are some things that we can do as Kiwis who are sick and tired of this and want to support our people? What can we do, especially as me and one of us who are city slicker?
Generally, at this point, say for the people who've just been elected into local government, there's a whole lot of good people who have stood out, who have been, these smear campaigns, and everything has happened. This is just the beginning. These people in councils who are going out there to bat for you, the public needs to get engaged and be the wind beneath their wings. Each time you don't agree with the proposal, go along to council meetings, within yourselves. And I have had to do this myself. There's someone babysitting, there's someone driving, there's carpooling and whatnot. Go along to these meetings. If these meetings are happening at times that don't suit you, which is what has happened to us a couple of times, 2 to 3 in the afternoon. Parents have school pickup, school drop off, and all. Ask for the meetings to be held in the evenings and so on. But please engage with your local councils, because that's your own backyard. I am someone, for whom it has always been about the local elections. The national elections, I have a different view of this. I'm like, if every one of us just takes care of our own backyard, our own castles are that secure, it doesn't matter what's at the center, because we are engaged at what's happening in our own councils.
Yeah.
There are people who are seeing what's happening with the motorways and the cycle pathways and other things, and yet we just go along with them. Where have you registered your, dissent with the council that this is not safe, or this is inconveniencing us, or say this is affecting the business footfall? You should be going along, or if to ratepayers groups, if they are not, you should be creating ones yourself.
Yeah.
Go and liaise with there is golfing clubs that are going to have to clear path for housing developments. There are businesses that are going to be hampered. There is people who are going to be, as you know, this whole thing about zero emissions on the road. There are people who are going to find life really hard. A mom with two children and a whole lot of gear to get along. Not everyone can ride a bike. But the point is to not sit back. There is people who are batting for you, but you need to go along and make your voice heard, engage, form local groups within yourselves. That's what's happened down in Southland. There's a few of us who found each other, who found a few more, who found a few more. Be it you're at the sidelines of your local rugby club match, or standing outside of school sports, or whatever. Start speaking with others, and the agenda is only going to, the juggernaut is just going to get faster. And already, I think with you guys, you live out in the big smoke. It is certainly undeniable, isn't it? It's at your doorstep
Uh,
now.
City of Sales, please. City of Sales.
Is it?
Meat comes on a plastic dish with glad wrap around it. That's that's how we.
But yeah, engage. Democracy is as good or as bad as we make it.
Yes, absolutely.
Engagement is
Well said.
no two ways about it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well said. Well said. So, in terms of the, so it sounds. I really like what you've sort of said in terms of, groundswell. Yes, groundswell did go quiet for a while. I know that there are some issues there that people had, but you've been talking here a very conciliatory sort of spirit. About we've got to get together. We've got the Typhoid division is passed. We've got to unite, and I think you're absolutely right, especially with things like the media, the lowered media trust from the public overall, the elections, the local elections, which saw a great big swing away from hard progressivism and wokeism. So I think you're absolutely right on the money there. So what are your plans going forward? Because of course, you've got that farming element, and you've got also now you're going to be part of the local community. Are you also going to lead charges in terms of protests? What do you think you might do there?
Elliot, I don't really think I'm going to change from what I have been doing. I
Mm.
just been standing in my truth and speaking to people around me. We haven't really had big protests as such, but we've certainly had meetings and talks with different groups. Around here, we had set up a small rural group. We did get fragmented during COVID, but I think the time is right now again for, as farmers start seeing what's happening, to again give that one a bit of a, get us started again. But other than that, at this point, it's 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 a matter of, as I keep saying, someone asked me, they said, oh, what was your whole campaign, what was it based on, and how did you do it? I was like, very honestly, winging it. I If you ask me, this is as far removed from me as from my nature, the sort of person that I am. But there comes a point when you're like, right, if this is what it takes, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But at this point, my one role and my one key, in fact, my 1 point plan is to make myself accessible to the community as much as possible. They shouldn't have that 37% score that I said Southern District Council had about the decision making reflecting the people's aspirations. That needs to change. And I'm pretty sure if you go across all the councils in the country, it would be somewhere around the same. People are submitting and making, petitions, deputations, nothing happens. It's a matter of bringing groups together. And there are people who are doing this. You could have anything. It could be your equestrian, maybe you're a rider and you've got a group there. Maybe you've got a walking group, a book club, whatever. And I've been I think, a bit of a bore like that, wherever I've found a few people. Like, you see this is happening, and I remember someone once told me, just wait, just finish that wine. I'm like, okay, I will finish the wine, but. But yeah, you have
Oh, well
to
done.
keep speaking up.
Step two, step two. So there's been a really interesting comment there from Joanne from our YouTube area. Auckland Council is having a gathering called Radical Collaboration Accelerating Climate Change Action.
Yeah.
Together, you need to attend Monday 31 October 2022 Ballroom Crown Plaza City Centre. So that's really interesting. That actually might be a sort of a push. And of course, one of their safer areas are in the CBD, Auckland CBD. Sometimes I feel like apologising for them, but the MP there is Chloe Srawsbeck. So that's something which we'll see if we can put up there to find. Jaspreet, how do you, in terms of the centre or the central politics, do you think that Luxon or National, is there a party out there who look like they will at least repeal or stop this type of policy, not just this policy, but other anti-farmer policies? And I say that with an awareness that the carbon neutral bill, I believe, was also supported by National. What are your thoughts there?
But Elliot, I am no expert on, center government. And as I told you, I've always just looked after my own backyard. And this probably might come as a surprise to many people, but I've never really focused much on central politics. But I have been seeing these statements, and I don't think any party right now is unequivocally calling out the ETS for the sham it is. It's the same thing that happened in Three Waters. National said it will repeal and replace Three Waters. Replace with what? You already created
Mm.
Tamata ROI, that, mega bureaucracy.
Yes.
They keep saying the same. I keep seeing different posts from all the national leaders saying that we support our farmers, we back our farmers. Well, then why are you not calling out the lies for what they are? Why are
Yeah.
you not calling out that this is utter hogwash, and how much is our contribution to global warming? At this point, very frankly, I don't see anybody who is calling things out for what they truly are. Some are making noises, but at the end of the day, they're just that, noises, not much substance to them.
Ooh, well said, well said. So, of course, just to let everyone know that Te Mana o Te Wai, right? We've put an article up there. This was written by Kramer, which is the Twitter handle who exposed the Mahuta family dynasty, that empire that is basically possibly is too big to even touch at this stage. So have a look at that if you want. It is stunning what's actually in there. Te Mana o Te Wai is a beast. It is a beast, and it really could. It could bring down the entire system. So if you want to have a little look at that, jump onto our website. It's right there for you as well. Anyway. Sorry, I've been throwing so many questions because I've been really excited. Liao, I apologise. Did you have something there?
No, no, it's fine. Sometimes it's good to just put them out there and to listen to you. There's a lot of people who don't actually know about you. So you're a farmer as well. Like this is,
I should now
people have been
stop
asking.
saying I'm a farmer. I think I have gotten so busy this side that I'm now relegated to being a farmer's wife, and being jack of all trades around whatever they need done, from running to town, running to the wets, farmlands, RD1, and so on. But for 5 years, I was a full-time farmer. That's all I did for the first 5 years in New Zealand. Slowly, our kids came along. I took a back seat down to relief milking and other things. But yeah, farming, I understand. And this is all we came to New Zealand to do, Liao. My husband and I,
Yes.
with the corporate sector in India, heading into our 14th season farming, onto a
Wow.
third job. We don't own a farm, we work here. And this is all we came to do. But if you were in farming, the writing on the wall has been clear for a decade. It's been clear for a decade. There is no two ways about which way this agenda is going and what they're coming for. And we've seen instances, haven't we, in Holland, in the farmers' protest in India, late 2020, in the midst of COVID, there were still protests, over a million people at one time. Sri Lanka, it is like horses for courses, more than one ways to skin a cat, but it's all coming down to the same thing.
Yeah.
We are essentially carbon neutral. I think was it 2020 when this Auckland University study came out with that result, and the government disagreed. It said that for the vast majority, between 60 to 70%, They are at carbon neutral already, and the rest are close. We are right now penalizing our farmers for being the most efficient in the world. I had someone here in one of these candidate meetings, a younger person, who spoke about the fact that, okay, we may have very efficient farmers, but farming is 40% of our greenhouse emissions. It is 40% of 0.17%. And
Yeah,
that 40%, that 0.07% doesn't feed 5 million, it feeds closer to 50 million. So there are some people who are getting their food emission free, and we are paying the tax for feeding others. Hey, but
Yeah,
now
it's extraordinary.
let's just shift it to other countries. Let's increase the emissions. At least we've decreased ours, right? Is that the way it goes? I don't know.
but this
Yeah.
is the
I
type of
really don't
teaching.
know.
Yeah, the
And
teaching at
incidentally, we are
school.
the only
Yeah,
country in the world that has two climate commissions: a New Zealand Aotearoa Climate Commission and a Maori Climate Commission. I
that's
I
right.
rest
Can you
my
just
case.
touch on how Māori farmers are going to be have assistance in regards to this? I had somebody on Twitter say something. It's time to find yourself a Māori wife if you want to be a good farmer. You know, to be able to
I
see. This
saw
is
that
the kind
article
of
myself,
divide.
that taxpayers might be. It's a distraction again, isn't it? It is thrown out there. The non-Maori will react to it. We end up infighting, and the agenda carries on. We need to
Right.
ignore these distractions. At the
Yes,
end of the day,
it's a very good
if
point.
if they were doing so well, is how much better off is the average Maori? I'm not talking about the ones at the very top, but the plight of the average Maori, we all know it. And yet, the entire thing, supposedly from treaty settlements to everything, is supposedly for the betterment. Where is that wealth being concentrated? So I think we need to avoid these distractions. They're just going to
Yeah.
lead to infighting. And I saw, on some pages already, how dare they? And this is against why it's going to turn to South Africa. Well, it'll only turn to that if we let it. If we realize it's divide and rule, and just let that, just ignore it. That's it.
Yep. Well said. Just please, there has been a couple of comments coming up about one particular political party, small one at the moment. This is Matt King's Democracy NZ party, of course. He's been going around different parts of the country, and I believe he's actually in the South Island at the moment. But he has been filling out halls and the stadiums. He's been filling out bars and pubs. He's been. Do you know of him? Has he been? Because my understanding is he is actually speaking exactly what you're speaking about. He's going totally against these emission areas, and of course he spoke at the Freedom Village as well.
Yep. I that is when I first heard of Matt, to be very honest, at the Freedom Village. As I said, I'm not, a center politics person, and that's where I first heard of him, saw him, with a face to the name, and it is encouraging, but it probably sounds a bit too rich coming from me, but I think it needs to be more unabashedly out there exactly what's happening. There is, there's the point where 2 years ago, as I said, many of these things that I've been talking about, for which the media has been slamming me, UN conspiracy theorists, people wouldn't listen to them. But you would be surprised how receptive they are now. In fact, Jill was telling me she had gone somewhere, and with, I think, Farmer James, to a hall, and they were talking about something like this before calving, I think early winter. And she said this guy stood up and he said, he says, 2-3 years ago, a guy came here with two chicks and they were talking the same thing. She says, I was one of those chicks. You remember me with the Agricultural Action Group? So there has come a time where, Agricultural Action Group, I think, was fabulous. They were probably ahead of their time. Some of them were not ready. Some of them got too spooked that, hey, what's happening? But they said much of what our own politicians don't.
Yep, well said, well said. Look, I also want to bring up, as you're speaking about that climate area, I do get constantly questions about, hey, why do the media keep on doing this sort of thing? Why do you not give a balanced opinion? I want to show our audience something that is probably one of the biggest reasons for it. This area here, this is something that's This is the Covering Climate website. Now, this is a group, this is a document which holds a great deal of media who have made a promise. So there you'll see there that I've popped that up for everyone to have a bit of a gaze at, a little bit of a look. All right. Now, what is Covering Climate Now? This is something that we've discussed, I believe, a few years ago when they started coming up. All right. So these are all partners. This is across the world in here. What? There you go. As you see there. Why join? Joining Covering Climate Now is a way for individuals and newsrooms to demonstrate leadership among their peers, to show readers, listeners, and viewers that they're committed to telling the climate story with the rigor, focus, and urgency it deserves. All right. So effectively, what it is that this group here is you sign up to the Covering Climate Now document, and when you do sign up to it, basically you promise to show one side of the story. You do not show a balanced part. Now, in terms of that, I'm going to pop up here. You can see me at the near top there. I'm going to pop it here. Look, I keep on doing this. Partner list. These are the groups these other groups who have signed up to the Covering Climate Now document. All right, here, TVNZ, or you've got the Young Turks, the Weather Channel. Over here, you've got RNZ. You've got TVNZ here as well. All right, you've got various others. News Brazil, Channel 4 News. You've got News Hub there. That's New Zealand. News Hub there, New Zealand. Okay, if we go down here into radio, you can have a look. Italia, Los Angeles, Chicago, Australia. All right, now I believe that there was a couple, but I'm going a bit too fast here. There we go, New Zealanders. Oh, you've got the Wanaka Sun. You've got the Otago Daily Times. You've got the New Zealand Herald. So it's fascinating to watch how these news articles, that pretty much the entirety of New Zealand mainstream media, have actually signed up to the Covering Climate Now, which promise to only show one side of the story. Okay, this is international news stations all going on to there. All right, so I wanted just to show that to everyone to display that these things that the people who were conspiracy theorists years ago, saying that they belong to a cabal, well, they actually have signed up to this Covering Climate Now group in order to only share one message of it. And as Jaspreet was actually saying, she did say that it was aimed at children as well. Yes, in year 9, there is a taxpayer-funded setup presentation that is out there which tells children of this covering that the climate is changing, that it's people kind, and that New Zealand has to really do its part and lead the way, yada, yada, yada. So it's extraordinary. The level of if not misinformation, then group thought information that's been pumped out there by New Zealand mainstream media. Utterly shocking.
Now, Facebook has its own Center for Climate Justice and Truth they talk about. You only have to look at, what do they say? Judge us by our actions, not our deeds, I think. And if you go and look at IPCC chief, and I shouldn't speak ill of the dead, my grandmother would really be angry at me. But if you look at who was the IPCC chief who got the Nobel Prize with Al Gore, IPCC is the word you will find in every single one of our council documents, every single one. It refers to Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Rajendra Pachauri, he was an Indian mechanical engineer for the Indian Railways turned climate scientist. Now, this gentleman, when was it the second IPCC or the third that came out, they found that 5,000 of the references that were put in the most damning part of the report were not even peer reviewed. They were from advocacy groups, even student theses.
Wow.
He ultimately
5,000.
5,000 of them, but it had close to 8,000 references. He ultimately lost his job. He had to surrender his passport to the Delhi police because he was sexually harassing a couple of juniors who were 30 years his junior, as a 69-year-old younger women. And then he had to step down, and then he moved into writing erotica, in which the protagonist was actually sexually harassing a junior staffer who was 30 years his junior. And he was a laughing stock in India. Talk about real life imitating real life. these are the people who were part of IPCC. He's passed 2 years back, but their legacy lives on in all our council documents. The same thing is Maurice Strong, who was among the initial, was he the initial environment on the Environment Commission of the United Nations? Now his own words were, "Isn't it our role to bring the collapse of developed societies? Isn't that the only hope for planet Earth?" So this is United Nations, IPCC. This is the body that our government said that we are bringing into our legislation, the United Nations, that we'll be the first country in the world to put the SDGs into our legislation. It's
Wow.
merits to think about which way we are going. You know,
That's extraordinary. That quote, I think, is a very extraordinary quote. Yeah, and you're right. It's right there.
it is right there. So
What
we
if
were
a small group of world leaders were to conclude that the principal risk to the Earth comes from the actions of the rich countries in order to save the planet? The group decides isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized civilizations collapse. Isn't it our responsibility to bring that about? That is extraordinary. Wow.
yeah. There's another one after him that who said that even if the whole substance of our this argument of climate change is wrong, we still need to carry on with it,
Ah,
regardless.
yes. Yes, I've
Climate
seen that one.
changes.
Even if it's
Climate
wrong,
changes four
we got to
times a
carry
day.
on.
So you
Climate changes
That's
justify it.
4 times a day in Southland. We've had ice ages and back again and whatnot. But to say that paying a tax, pay some dollars, a few 100,000, if we are really unlucky and the carbon prices shoots up, it's going to save the world. We are already saving the world at negligible net emissions, negligible as a country.
I mean, you think about it. I've seen that New Zealand is, as you said, 0.07, where China is around 30, like 30%. It's up here, but we don't want to talk about that.
India is
No, we
close to
don't.
23 or 26. They are not going to let their populations starve. I often talk India is 1.4 billion, 1,400 million, pretty big as compared to New Zealand. If you let population starve there, you'll have a mutiny on the streets.
Yep. Yep.
They
Yep.
won't do
You will.
that. You've seen what's happened in Sri Lanka. And here is we are very willing to self-destruct for some sort of United Nations scorecard to be ticked off to map our progression to the SDGs. We deserve better.
Yes, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. And I think just Brett, it is absolutely great to have you
Yeah.
on this show. Look, I can tell you, I think there's a lot of us who are so relieved, even, an odd feeling, but so relieved to have someone who fights up, who stands for the rights of New Zealanders, who fights against the climate cultism that we, we do see going on. But I, for one, just thank you so much for stepping
Yeah.
up and actually taking that on, because I think it's a wonderful thing that you've done. Absolutely.
Thank you, Elliot. Now, this is home. This is home. And my kids are born New Zealanders. I'm one now. I surrendered my Indian passport in 2015. This is home, and you fight for your own backyard, don't you?
Yeah, and we just need
Absolutely
to
right.
fight. We need to continue to stand for our country. I was just thinking as you were talking, just Preet, that back to the movie Shrek, where Lord Farquaad is like standing up on his tower, and he says, "And some of you may die." But that's the price I'm willing to make. And I think about that with our current leader. This is exactly what I feel like is happening right now. It's just like, well, I'm just going to sacrifice you for virtual signaling to the world that we can keep our carbon emissions at 0.0%. You know,
We are, as a country, we are carbon neutral, at least farming is. So to penalize farming is to penalize every single New Zealander at the grocery till.
like I
Yep.
agree. Just pre for Prime Minister. Yes.
Be very
Boom.
careful what you wish for. Ask my husband. Be very careful what you
No, we wish that. It doesn't even matter at this point.
All right. Awesome.
Oh.
Awesome. So, Liao, do you want to finish us off, eh?
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to close with a word of prayer. God, I just want to thank you for this time that we can spend together. Thank you for Justpreet and her heart for her community and her family and for future generations. I thank you for her stand and all those who are in the freedom movement who can see that our democracy is being lost at a very fast speed, Lord. And so we just ask you tonight to bless her and her family, give her favor and blessing over her stand and whatever comes her way, that she'd be able to continue standing. I pray for those around her and all those who are standing, that they would be an encouragement to them and for this journey ahead. We pray, Lord, your blessing and favor over all our listeners and be with us until we meet again. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Just Preet, we'd love for you to maybe to give the last word just to our people. Any message that you'd like to give them?
I love this country. It's worth fighting for. It's worth putting yourself out there for. Thank you.
Awesome. God bless you all.
Good night. Thank you.